I just started streaming. Can you share the slide with the music?
Yep. I don't have the one with the music. Where did I put the one for the music? Yeah. Let's see.
You can just play separately if you want.
Okay. See my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay. Is it streaming already?
Yes.
Just make sure that the streaming is working. Okay, good. The streaming is working. Okay, let me just play some music.
Is Malcolm also updated with the correct link?
I hope so.
Yeah,
Lorraine?
I've
Because
sent
that time
new one.
there's a typo in his
Yeah,
email.
I've corrected that and sent to Kirti and everybody to
Awesome. The music coming up?
Yeah.
Yeah. I need to check on the YouTube.
Music is okay, right?
That's good.
Is the music coming out through the YouTube live?
the one coming up from the YouTube live is good.
Thank you. Oh, you're dancing.
No. We got a very interesting music.
That was from Big. Yeah, it is very good. So talented. Okay, Malcolm is going to stay a minute to introduce. Praise God. And I think we can. Welcome. Welcome. Are we live yet, Vic?
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. This is another iteration of our exciting Tech Talks Asia. A warm welcome to all of you, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you for joining us in this session. I hope all of you can see my screen clearly. All right. Before we jump into the session, I wanted to use the opportunity to welcome a friend and also our sponsor, all right, Malcolm from Intel. I'm just wondering whether he's in, and even Kirti. Hi, Kirti.
Good afternoon. Good morning, I think.
How are you?
Good. How are you now?
Fantastic. Fantastic. Just wondering, would you did you want to say something to welcome our guests through YouTube Live today?
Absolutely. For everyone that's already here, thank you for joining. We're hoping you get some value out of everything that we're going to be talking about around Microsoft Hybrid Cloud offering. Noel is a very skilled instructor, and he's very thorough and very factual, so I'm hoping you can enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. Malcolm's here too. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to
hi,
share
everyone.
a minute with our audience on YouTube Live? Thank you.
Okay, let me see if I could switch on my camera as well.
Wonderful.
Okay, yeah. Probably morning, afternoon, and evening to everyone that's on the call. I'm not sure of the time zone yet, right? But you're in good hands with Noel. I mean, Intel is happy, right, that we could support Microsoft as part of this Tech Talk series, and Stack HCI and Windows OS Server and all that. It's really a critical component in terms of the partnership between Intel and Microsoft, right? It's still a core part of our business, even with all the data center business that we have ongoing. But we're happy to participate. But I think you're in good hands with Noel. He'll be the one walking through you guys all of the content today. But yeah, thank you everyone for being in attendance. I don't want to take too much time, and I'll pass the floor back to you guys. Noel.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Malcolm. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for helping us kick this start. All right. And just to give you a perspective, this is not like the first time or second time we've been doing it. In fact, we went big bang last year in December. We had 3 sessions, all right, on the 9th, the 16th, and the 21st. And then we decided we'll start the year, right, big in February this year. Okay, so we are now in our second session for the 2023 series, if you want, and the topic today is do more with less using Azure HCI. Very quickly, you'll soon see that Microsoft has done amazing things, all right? Hopefully, all that will inspire you, will excite you, and literally help you take off. And that's our aspiration for you too, all right? For those of you joining us online. Now, that said, all right, it's important that we know that it's not a one person that has made this possible. Together with myself, all right, I have my team with me. We have Cole, we have Amar, we have Vic, and even behind the scene, even though you may not see Lorraine saying very much, but she's an integral part of this team that made it possible, all right? And therefore, we want you to receive them warmly, all right? And you soon see that this packed schedule that we have in store for you, starting with doing more with less, And truly, we wanted to enshrine simplicity, licensing, architecture, design, and even affordability into this midst, without forgetting that the end of support is looming. All right, it's like 6-7 months away, and it's burning down every tree you can imagine. But Microsoft has an amazing licensing change that happened last year that's going to help us, whether you're coming in with Windows Server Standard Data Center or just with Azure HCI. We believe that Better Together story is going to take us through with an amazing affordability story. So that said, these are the 5 areas that we're going to take you through. And to get started, I think it's important for us to believe and see this happening in our midst. The traditional data center of the past has given away to the modern data center, all right? Very much like what Microsoft has in Azure, all right? With loosely coupled apps and microservices and using industry standard hardware from Intel, with all the different brands I can imagine, with a very service-focused DevOps and even highly standardized processes and configurations, giving us the ability to do more with less with what you have. From an on-premise perspective, you could burst out into Azure, right, into the cloud, and yet be able to persist some of these services, meaning leaving them up there in Azure. And in doing so, you may find that the ability to transform isn't as difficult as what it looks, right? But all that said and done, customers of ours have been asking, how can we bring Azure from the cloud down to the on-premise data center? The day is here. We can run Azure PaaS in your data center. You don't have to wait anymore. So that said, in what situation it makes perfect sense? You can do it at the edge in a distributed manner. You can run virtual desktops, or you can simply what we call lift and shift your Windows workloads and your SQL Server workloads into Azure HCI at the edge, in the robo, even in a data center scenario. So in a data center scenario, you may be starting with like a 3 node. Basically, just from a traditional virtualization, lift and shift into Azure HCI OS. But that said, with Windows Admin Center, the free web browser tool, you can connect into a whole lot of services. And that's where we wanted you to understand that even if you have a boring lift and shift scenario, right, you can still go out to Azure, right? But not forgetting that many customers today have already started asking us about using the Azure portal, using the latest, greatest management pane like Azure Arc in order to manage container workloads, manage virtual desktops, and even SQL PaaS services, data services, cognitive services, and more, right? The key point here is not limited. And the amount that you can put in today is increasingly, amazingly, to a hyper level if you want. And yet be able to access a whole bunch of Azure services out there, from Azure Monitor to Defender for Cloud, and even the what they call Azure, what they call SQL and Azure File Sync and Azure Backup, Azure Site Recovery, and so forth. So the limits is really in your imagination. But I want to draw all that back to a community group that started all of this a few years ago. We have the Microsoft Hybrid User Group. We urge you to join us. Click on this QR code, join us on this, and be informed of the latest and even this particular event that we are having right now. Now, that's it. Coming back to the topic at hand, many of our customers come to us regularly asking for a solution to their capacity, their storage capacity needs, their resiliency needs of their data. And of course, not forgetting performance and even affordability, because everything is going up in price. I'm sure everywhere you turn, things are increasing in price. Good news is Microsoft and Intel with our technologies is not going up in price. And therefore, you can truly do more with less from that perspective. And to get that started, we wanted you to understand that in the modern world of change today, even the small and medium businesses have priorities around collaboration, cybersecurity, and business application. And as you can see, they're all set to high. Truly, if you didn't collaborate today, you didn't have your cybersecurity on high alert today, and your applications are not driving your business forward, truly your cost is going to increase further and further. And complexity of your environment will continue to increase more and more. Everything from meetings, simple things like scheduling of calendar, even managing your devices and so forth, it's going to be more and more difficult. So that's why we believe that the technology that we bring to you has to be doing more with less. And the hot news to all of that is the growth of hyperconverged in the world today has transformed. All right, and this particular sponsored spotlight article from Microsoft and Intel really showcased that many organizations are using it for mission critical workloads across from core, edge, and hybrid cloud environment. So I urge you to check out this article from IDC, and in there you will discover that not just you and me that's excited that this particular data is valid, but also the rest of the world. Therefore, it's not surprising that 70% of those organizations have gone down that path, and close to 70% are planning to shift in the next 12 months or so. The key takeaway to all of that is the HCI use will grow as enterprise pursue transformation, whether that is at the on-premise, at the edge, or in a cloud environment. So that's it. Let's jump straight in, right? And let's look at the end of support. Now, many of you probably know that security today is very, very important. So securely operate your workload, ensuring that the environment is secure and trustworthy, and even empowering your users and even down to your users, customers and so forth to be in a regulated manner. All of these capabilities must be part of the technology and the solution that we have. So we've given you again and again, we talked about Defender, we talked about SDN, we talked about Secure Core, basically protecting the firmware, protecting the hardware, all right, and even being compliant with FIPS, with CNSSP 15, LOA, and so on. All of these are important aspects that we need to understand. So that's why it's not surprising when we talk about the advanced multi-layer security, we talk about the protection at the boot, and even with the hardware root of trust, all right, and of course, defending the firmware from hardware attacks, validating the system integrity, and even ensuring and preventing unverified code from compromising systems using a technology called VBS. So these capabilities, if you want, quickly allows us to give Vic a chance to show how dangerous the world is today with the end of support looming around the corridor. All right, Vic, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Awesome,
Thank
awesome.
you.
Thank you, Vic. Take us through this. Show us how bad the world is today. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Just a share screen. I'm going to show a demo of how you could attack a Windows Server 2012. This is a research done by some researcher, which is pretty good. As you can see, for example, you have a Windows Server 2012. Just checking through the information just to verify everything is correct. You just make sure this is Windows Server 2012 R2 Standard Edition. So just to show you that, and yes, same here, edition, just to be clear. And so just to make sure that everything built is this version, and this is a standard version. So from there you can see everything is clearer. So before I continue, just to show that getting all the IP address, knowing all this information beforehand helps. So we got all the information we need. So let's show how an attack can be done. This attack can be done actually through any Linux platform. It can be a lot of options, but this is just going to show one of it, assembling the kernel code to prepare for exploit. So some of the things that is setting up the lab. So I'm going to move forward just to show you cooking the shell code. There's already a code to show how vulnerable it is. It's safe, so it's a test code, so it won't affect, but just getting the external, this is Eternal Blue exploit. So it's pretty famous last time, according to Noah, based on the history, he's more familiar with it last time. So it's pretty good. That to show how dangerous this could have affect all the system. So once you got the code ready, downloaded into the Linux, it's all here. It's in the system. So what I'm going to show you is just to go to the root terminal, and whereby you started preparing the information. Yeah, install into the drive, preparing the shellcode, merging the exploit files. Kernel shellcode 64-bit, depending on the version of OS that you're attacking. Mostly now 64-bit, so I'm going to show that 64. Now, after I got the exploit file ready is already inside here. It's 101 bin file. So after this, what it will happen actually, assembling the code is actually pretty forward. Let me show you. This is just renaming the file, so it's easy for us. Let me show you. So this is the code. Let me 1 second. Okay. Now, generating. So this is a special where we generate the user and shell code together with MSF Venom. What it did was just creating a shell. It's pretty straightforward code, and we just type it in, then targeting the host machine, which is the Linux, Kali Linux. So then you will appear this file ready, and the next code actually going to show is that the second code is actually another shell file that is supposed to be prepared, and once it key in, as you can see, is a Metapreter file that is created. Before there was a reverse TCP file, and one shell and Metapreter. So once it's created, it's actually pretty easy. Few codes or lines, preparing the bin file. It's all ready. Wow, it's all generated in seconds. So now, what about, let me go to another one. So after it generated, we are supposed to join this kernel shellcode and user LAN shellcode together. And once it's joined in, and it's ready for exploit. So this is the two code that was running just now, just so that you can see it properly. So this is merging the two shellcode. One is kernel and one is Metapreter. It's all bin file. Now, once it's merged, it will have to generate a reverse, so to receive signal from the attack, the identified server that you want to attack. So what happened is that I got this file from here. So this is a cube cow MSF. So you show the exploit. You use exploit, and it will start multi-handler. It will start to load the exploit up online. It will start running. You go forth in the system, set payload. You can see that it's pretty fast. Just a few lines of codes, and you can check just to make sure the file is correct. Now it's all set. Started reverse TCP handler is accessing to the server soon, and from there you can see that. Let me go move forward just to show that now the data is checking. So basically it's already running behind and is reversing. So it's pretty straightforward. What I'm going to show this is that there's two types of attacks. One attack is through guest account. Most of the time, sometimes we are not sure. The server, I guess, account was activated, but without realizing this is one of the easiest attack. The server with guest account enabled. So then from here you can see the two codes, and you can looping in and go into the system and get the information you need. And this is attacking through guest account. What it shows is actually the information of the server. Computer name is this one. Then the information meter interpreter is already accessing it with authority. Look at this. So this is one. There's another attack that using user and pass. There's account. Let's say they got hold of account through various means. A staff writing down their login detail because hard to remember password. Then they put it on the table with a piece of code. Somebody got a hold of it. Yeah, you can access in through here. So it's starting pinging. You can see the shellcode is reversing the information and responding. So these are a bit technical, but more importantly is that it's not difficult nowadays with all the codes online. And what they get is that they attack it in such a way. It's the same. This actually show the same screen as this one. After that, just that the account use is different. So this is actually how the exploit happened for 2012. This is it, just to show you how the demo of how attack happens. It's just a few information, then that's it. Yeah, Noel, pass back to you.
Thank you, Vic. Thank you. I'm not sure if your demo is coming through the YouTube live, but maybe you can have a look at that. But most importantly is the rest of it is working. So YouTube Live, okay, for everyone. Yeah, I just want to make sure that we don't lose our audience in there. So the other bit that
the demo's not coming through on the YouTube.
yeah,
I can
Oh.
see the demo teams.
yeah, it looks like we lost your demo, Vic. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
Yeah. Never mind. We will look at that separately. But maybe what we can do is we can insert that into the recording later.
Okay.
Now the next bit that we wanted to talk about, all right, from a attack perspective is from the SQL Server, right? Many organizations today have SQL Server running as a database repository for their applications and so forth. So we wanted to give Ko a chance to show us how an attacker potentially can exploit a SQL Server 2012. And why specifically SQL Server 2012 is because the end of support actually happened in July 2022. And we're talking about like 6 months ago, more than 6 months ago now. And therefore, without able to get security updates, if you have an end of support scenario, right, your SQL Server will be particularly vulnerable. So Ko, you there? Can you show us how attacker could potentially exploit the SQL Server?
Yeah, no problem. Okay,
Thank
let
you.
me share my screen. Yeah, can everyone see my share screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so good day to everyone. Right, so it's just mentioned by Noel and what have been shared by Vic just now, that the vulnerability is very serious, and how the hacker, the bad guy, can actually get use of this vulnerability and actually gain elevation of the privilege, as well as perform some kind of like a remote code execution and so on. Right. So just a very fast illustration, like just now Vic have showed about the bad guy has actually went through exploit and actually get access to the Windows Server 2012 for example, right? So same for the SQL Server, the application level, right? So once the hacker is actually sitting inside your network, right? So he's actually capable to actually do a scanning and to check it out. What are the server, which are the version, especially those server with some kind of application like SQL Server, which is not patched to the latest, and with the non-vulnerability available out there, right? So this will happen where the spot scanning has occurred, and the hacker knows that, oh, this version of SQL Server is running and it's not patched to the latest, right? So what the bad guy will actually do is they will actually penetrate and exploit the vulnerability. And from the application perspective, right, the bad guy can actually view, change, or even delete the data, right? So what even worse is it can actually create a new user and with an SA right? And even worse, it can actually they will actually exfiltrate all the data inside the database, right? And of course, from that perspective, right, they also can actually gain access to the system layer, right, to take complete control, right, to install certain program or even some backdoor application, right, create a new user, right, with the administrative right, and encrypt the data as well, right? So this is how serious it is if the vulnerability, a well-known vulnerability, is not patched and it's actually available out there for that someone is going to make harm of it and actually get access of it, right? So that's how I wanted to share how important for us to actually get patches and update to the latest, right? So over to you now.
Thank you, Ko. Thank you.
Yep.
Hopefully that gives you an understanding that SQL Server is also vulnerable to attacks. Right, not limited to that. We felt that it's important to give you hope, right? Because at the end of the day, we tell you that it's hopeless and the situation is really, really bad, you'll probably be demoralized. But we don't want you to be demoralized. We want to lift you up. From that perspective, we wanted to give you an understanding that by you running SQL Server 2012 on top of Azure ACI, right, with the Azure benefits that is available, right, you will continue to get security updates. So Cole, can you take us through how easy it is for someone to just run SQL Server on Azure HCI?
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Right. So let me quickly show you. So for the customer, that the partner who actually helping the customer to migrate the SQL Server workload on top of the Azure HCI, they can actually enjoy the benefit called extended security update for free for 1 more year, right? And this is some of the illustration about if the customer is wanted to buy the extended security update for the SQL Server, for example, and also the Windows Server and the SQL Server 28. Right, 208 R2, and these are the price out there, and this is something that the customer need to really consider of, right? So by migrating the workload into the modernized infrastructure like Azure HCI cluster, but customer can actually benefit by turning on a feature in Azure HCI called Azure benefit, right? So let me quickly show you on how this benefit can actually allowing the customer, right, who actually migrate the workload into the Azure HCI machine and benefit from this Azure benefit capability and enable the extended security update for free for 1 more year. So from here you can see that actually the customer actually migrated the SQL Server as a virtual machine that running on top of the Azure HCI cluster. Right? So let's take a look and actually log in to this virtual machine, and so that we can actually have an overview of this is a SQL Server that actually customer have and is currently running as a virtual machine on top of this Azure HCI cluster, right? So as usual, right? So this is how what the platform that the administrator, the tools that use to actually manage the SQL Server, right? So from here, I will show you how easy it is to actually turn on the hybrid benefit, right? The Azure benefit, right? So from here, from the Azure HCI cluster, we go into the setting menu, right? And from here, there will be a menu called Azure benefit, right? So from this screen, we just need to select which virtual machine that we are going to apply this benefit and allows the extended security update to be applied on this particular machine, like for example, my workload on the SQL Server 2012 R2, right? So you can see here at the bottom here, I have a virtual machine, which is my SQL Server that already has the Azure benefit turned on, right? So once the Azure benefit feature is turned on, right, and it will actually allow the administrator to go to the Azure portal, right, which is the Azure Arc enabled of the Azure HCI cluster. And from here, we can actually add in the SQL Server, right? And from here, I can actually activate the extended security update, right? So from here, you can see that I have updated, added the SQL Server and enabled the extended security update since last year. Once is available, which is July. So I will actually receive a 1 year free extended security update, right? So for last year, July on 2022, so the extended security update is valid for 1 year, and it will be expired in this year, which is 2023 July, right? And from here, you can see how the administrator manage the SQL Server from the Azure portal, right? And here is the place where there is any security update available. The administrator will be come here and download and apply it accordingly, right? So I think that's all for me, and over to you now.
Thank you, Cole. Basically, what
Yeah.
you're saying is without having to pay any money, all the customer has to do is just to bring the SQL Server into a virtual machine running on top of Azure HCI OS, isn't it?
Yes.
Amazing.
And turn on the Azure benefit capability and to enjoy the 1 year extended security update for free.
Amazing. So that's the value of really the solution and the platform. All right. So thank you for that, Cole. Now, with the end of support out of the way, all right, I think it's important for us to have a more holistic understanding of how Microsoft licensing really helps us, right? Now, the announcement that was made during Ignite last year tells us that if you have Windows Server data center with software assurance, you have calls assigned to those that you can directly leverage with Azure HCI, right, at no additional cost. So this amazing benefit truly gives customer additional value. And with that value, right, we believe that you can do more with less. So truly, when Microsoft says you can do more with less, they mean it right down to the dollars and cents if you want. Now, the simple qualification to that is just you have Windows Server Data Center with software assurance. That's the qualification, all right? And with that active, right, you will be able to get all of these benefits, okay? So existing Windows Server hosts, exchange your Windows Server calls for Azure ACI calls with 180 days concurrent use rights while migrating the servers on top of that. And of course, Windows Server Data Center already gives you unlimited virtualization, right, as part, right? And in addition to that, you also get the Azure Arc piece, right? So all of these being able to help you with do more with less. Microsoft added on top of that, right, zeroing out your AKS cluster costs as well. How amazing is that? Now, if you add that all up, you soon see that you can take that through from 1 to 2 to 3, and even adding 2 and 3 together, giving you zero cost for AKS, zero cost for Windows Server, GAS, VMs, essentially the unlimited virtualization that data center gives you, and of course, even zeroing the cost of Azure HCI for itself. So the maximum eligibility gives you that amazing 2 plus 3 if you want, with almost everything for free. If you go to the Azure portal and if you look at that Azure hybrid benefit, you see a tool that looks like this. So if you were to assign 200 virtual CPU to AKS, you would have paid 8,200 US, right, for the month, right? And then adding up to the year. But as soon as you turn on the Windows Server software assurance, you notice that 200 virtual CPU now is zeroed, right? So that's the true value to the whole solution that you get. Now, some of you may say, but how about if I'm just using Windows Server as the platform? Now, how soon can I take advantage of that? Actually, today you can already do it. But there is a release calendar or cadence with Windows Server, right? Every 2 to 3 years, we see a new release. The fact that we release Windows Server 2022 towards the end of 2021, right? We probably can expect a 2-year or 3-year release cycle. It could be end of this year or end of next year before the next version. But it's important to note that with Azure HCI, we actually had a release cadence that is even faster. We have a yearly cadence, right? With the release of 22H2, we call it for Azure HCI, just not so far ago in October 2022. And we kind of have this gut feel that in October this year, we're going to see the next version coming out, right? So with every version, we see new capabilities. And the mere fact is because you have Windows Server Data Center with software assurance, you get the Azure HCI OS for free, right? With the extension into next year, if you want, or this year, the new version coming out, you get it free over the air in a non-disruptive manner for all subscribers. So this is Microsoft's version, if you want, to give you as a service delivery model, not just the entitlement, but also the upgrade path to the next version. So this is an exciting thing that we can expect. So that takes us through the Microsoft licensing in a short snippet. But very importantly, we wanted to show you how we can bring all this together better together. Because at the end of the day, the platform with HCI is not everything that a customer can use. They need to be able to run workloads on top of that in virtual machines. So that's where we believe the Windows Server piece comes in to empower that. Now, you saw the extended security update that Ko showed you with SQL Server, all right? So that's that bit down here, SQL Server 2012. Now, Windows Server 2012, 2012 R2 is coming in October this year, right? You soon be able to get that extended security update. But if you are running 208 and 28 R2 for Windows Server and SQL Server, the end of support is over. I'm sorry to say that you no longer can get security update with that particular set of technology. You have to bring those into Azure to get another year extension. But in the on-premise environment, it's over. But the other important thing to also understand is what we call the automatic virtual machine activation. As you know, the Windows operating system inside the virtual machine also needs activation. So this is also included for you as part of all these benefits with Azure HCI OS. Okay, let me just click through. So that's it. We want to quickly jump back into demos. So Ko, you there? Can you take us through a few of these exciting demos that you have in store for us for running things with
Yes.
Windows Server embedded together with Azure HCI OS? Yeah, thank you, Cole.
Yes, no problem. Right, thanks all. So let's take a look on the storage spaces. It's a technology that in Windows Server that help protect your data from this failure. It's conceptually similar to the RAID that implement in software. Right. So let's do a very simple illustration. Right. So in order for the administrator to create a storage space, right, you must first create one or more storage pool. Right. So it's a collection of physical disks that enable storage aggregation and elastic capacity expansion. Right. And for a storage pool, right, you can create one or more virtual disks, and these virtual disks are also referred to as storage space. Right. Storage space appear on the Windows operating system as a regular disk where you can create and format as volume and put in the file as what we are normally use. Right. So let me show you how simple and easy that we can actually turn on the storage spaces even in a single server configuration. Right. So here just a very simple illustration to show you that I have two different type of disks, which is spindle drive together with the SSD. Right. Two type of drive running in my this is my HP DL360 server. Right. So later on, I will show you how simple is it. I use the PowerShell to actually enable the storage bus case capability and use the server manager to actually create the storage with different storage tier. Right. So here is the illustration of the spec, the number of drive that I have, right, in terms of my spindle drive as well as my SSD. Right. So from here, I just need to go to the PowerShell and issue a command to actually enable the storage bus case, this capability in the server. Right.
Amazing.
So
That's a standard edition. So
yes, correct. Right. So how simple it is, even with our single server, right, configuration, we can also benefit from this storage spaces capability and have a caching capability that we can configure the faster tier become our cache for our spindle drive. Right. So once everything is ready, right, so let's jump back to the GUI interface. Right. We'll use the server manager, right, the tools that we normally use to actually create and configure our storage spaces and create the volume from here. Right. So simple as create a volume, right, and just to check through to making sure that everything is ready, the storage pool is ready, right? And here we are ready to go and create a virtual disk from it, right? And from here is a GUI interface, very simple to understand with all guided information. And from here you can see that we will enable the storage case tiering capability, right? Because just now I already issue a PowerShell command to actually turn on the storage bus cache. And from here, we can enable the tiering feature, right? So by selecting the mirroring setting and the provisioning type, from here, right, we can actually select the size, configure the size that we want to put as a faster tier, which is our SSD, and the size for our standard tier, which is our spindle drive, right? So I create a ratio of 100 by 400. Right. So from here, I will just go through the widget to actually create the virtual disk. Right. So once everything is ready, right? So simple, and we can start to create the volume once the virtual disk is ready. Right. So from here, we will create the volume as what I illustrated just now. After you have created the storage pool, right, and you create the virtual disk, and from here we can start to create the volume. Right. The volume is the drive that we normally access from our server level. Right. From here, I will fully utilize all the 500 gig and provide and mark it as to give it a drive letter, right? And name it label it as my data volume, right? And that's it. the system will actually help to provision and configure it accordingly, right? So once everything is ready, you can see that the JFT is actually shut up in my Windows, right? And it's accessible, right? And from here, I can actually start to use it and share
Awesome,
it,
Cole.
right? And copy file into it and so on, right?
Great.
So
Thank you.
all
Thank you.
by using GUI interface.
Awesome. Awesome. For the interest of time, all right, I'm just thinking, let's quickly summarize what you've just shown, right? Because I think the value of doing this is amazing. So you're saying that in a single physical server, you install Windows Server Standard and you have like SSD drives for caching and you have normal capacity drives. You can spin up something like storage spaces direct, the hyper-converged, but this is in a single node with standard edition, like storage spaces, right? Awesome, awesome.
Yes,
You know what?
correct. This is according special select in hyper-converged infrastructure. This is called storage spaces.
Amazing, amazing. That's the value of Windows Server, powering small customers especially. But you know, for slightly bigger customers, we have an opportunity to show them even in a single node, right, with Azure HCI. And this is that hyper-converged capability. And you can put in even virtual desktop from Azure, as we mentioned earlier, right? Do you think you can take us through this demo as well, Cole? Yeah?
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let me quickly walk you through on how I can actually leverage the capability of the hyper-converged infrastructure, even in single node configuration, right? So due to interest of time, let's quickly walk through on how the PaaS services like Azure Virtual Desktop can actually help customer, right, by managing the entire the virtual machine, the VDI virtual machine provisioning and management capability from the Azure portal, right? So from here, you can see that I'm leveraging the AVD that's running on my Azure HCI and how I can actually get the user to log in this the Azure Virtual Desktop. Currently what I'm showing is I'm getting the user to log in the Azure Virtual Desktop via the web client. Right. So from here, my AVD on my Azure HCI is actually running on the Windows 11 Enterprise Edition, right, which is using the multi-session edition. Right. So from here, administrator can actually configure and provision the publishing the ads and as well as helping the users to actually assign with the drive that is made from different departments, right? Provide the capability for file sharing and application collaboration and so on, right? And not limited to that, I can even run the dashboard reporting tools like Power BI and so on. This is something that we can actually run it and actually publish as an ad publishing, right, in the AVD environment. So you can imagine that how powerful it is. The administrator just install the Power BI tools into the multi-section Windows client, and with all the reporting has been shared in the departmental folder, right? And the user log in and click on the Power BI file, and the dashboard will actually launch and allowing the user to actually review the report accordingly. And not limited to that, we can even enjoy this benefit where even your hyper-converged infrastructure is actually created in a single node configuration. Right?
Awesome, awesome. You know, looking at you running the Power BI, it gives me a very exciting idea of how we can help customers at the edge, all right, and even at the robo scenario, right? So truly, I think we have an amazing opportunity to guide customers through. So this power of single node, whether it's just Windows Server Standard or Windows, data center running on top of Azure HCI OS, I think really gives customer something to celebrate, right?
Yes.
Truly is doing more with less. Thank you for that, Cole. Thank you. But you know what? Increasingly, I'm seeing customers asking for the virtual desktop with GPUs. So that's why I felt this was a very important capability that was introduced back in December last year, just a few months ago. All right, increasing density with GPU sharing. So now we have the ability to share the GPU, the single physical GPU inside that one node to multiple virtual machines, and therefore increasing the value of the solution. We're not limited to just normal boring, could be spreadsheets and so forth, but also the graphical, the Power BI stuff that you were doing, I think, right? And this capability was done jointly with technology coming from people like NVIDIA, for example. And the best part about it, managing with the same set of tools like you mentioned with Windows Admin Center, right? And even integration with Arc. All right, so this is here already, okay? You don't have to wait any further. In fact, we are working feverishly to try and get a set of technology for us to show this in a more tangible way, and even in labs, for example. But that said, the single node is not limited to just running those workloads that Ko has shown you. We wanted to take you even further to hopefully take your imagination to new heights. All right, so Ko, can you show us what you can do with something like Windows subsystem for Linux, please?
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure. No problem. Right. Thanks now. Right. So the Windows subsystem for Linux, right, will let the developer and the IT administrator to run Linux environment, right, include most of the command line tools, utilities, and application directly on the Windows, right, unmodified, without the overhead of the traditional virtual machine or dual boot setup, right? So as shared by now, right, WSL2 has been enabled for Windows Server 2022 last year, right? It makes it available for IT pros and the developer to actually spin up, to enable and spin up the Linux container on top of the Windows Server 2022, right? Not only with the PowerShell interface, now we can even turn on the X window directly in the we call it Windows subsystem for Linux, right? So from here you can see that I actually enabled the Windows subsystem for Linux version 2 and actually enable the X window for my Ubuntu OS, right? So as a quick illustration, right? So this is my Windows server, right? So just now you can see that I already enabled the Windows subsystem for Linux version 2 and also enable the X window for my Ubuntu, right? So I wanted to show you something very interesting, right? Here I have a SQL Server running, right? So as usual, right? I think you can see that you probably say that, oh, running a SQL Server on top of the Windows Server 2022 seems nothing special, right? Right. So I will show you something very interesting, right? So I have a SQL Server running, but however, right, it's not the SQL Server that installed in my Windows Server, right? However, it's a SQL Server container that running in my Windows subsystem for Linux. And you can see here, it's actually a SQL Server for Linux, right? And it's running as a container in my Windows subsystem for Linux, right? And not limited to that, I even turn on the Apache Tomcat application, right? That to illustrate that not only I can run a database container, I can even run the application container like the web server and so on, right? So how powerful is it, right? With the Windows subsystem for Linux, with even version 2, I can turn on the X window. I can even have better compatibility and security, by enabling the subsystem for Linux in Windows Server, right? So this is how I wanted to show you. I have a GUI interface, right? The X window with the container management tools running in my Windows subsystem for Linux version with the version 2 enabled. And from here, I can manage my container, right? Like the SQL Server container that I showed you just now, and also the Apache container that I'm showing you just now, right? With the Tomcat running, right?
Awesome. Thank you, Ko. Thank you so much for that.
No
Yeah, you truly blew us away, right? Because I thought you were just doing a Windows subsystem for Linux, but you actually took it to the next step, right? You even brought in a SQL Server in a container for us. Thank you so much for that, right? That was very enlightening, because a lot of people didn't expect us to be able to pack so much into even a single node, right? So you had like a Windows subsystem for Linux, essentially running the Linux operating system. On top of that, you had a SQL Server running in a container, right? On top of that, and all that running in a Azure ACI OS environment. right? But that's how we get customers to be able to do more with less, truly, right? We truly believe that is how we're going to do it, right? With Windows Server, with Azure ACI, regardless of which flavor of Windows Server edition it is, whether it's standard or data center, we are able to do that. Thank you for that, right? I think the last bit on affordability is probably the most impactful bit. At the end of it all, we can show you all the amazing, great capabilities, but you tell me, no, but I can't afford it. It's so expensive. Well, I want to assure you, I want to give you peace and comfort that it is not expensive. All right, doing more with less in a single node is probably the cheapest way you can do it. But sometimes customers says, but you know, I don't have HA, I don't have high availability, I don't have DR. That's where Azure comes in the picture. We give you that in Azure, right? Through the flexibility of the modernization of the application down to the containerization level, down to the database level, and so forth. Give us the end-to-end to serve you better at the retail, at the edge, right? A smaller footprint, a scalable solution that can take you even further. All right. So the commitment of a single node has arrived since May last year. And with the GPU partitioning support in December, we truly have encompassed everything that is possible for a do more with less. So simply with 2 nodes, all right, or rather, sorry, 2 drives per node, right, you're able to achieve this capability, all right? So that's how we do it, see? At the end of the day, we're not just talking, we are doing it, right? We are leading the way with doing it, if you want. Okay, so the activation that we talked about earlier is easier than ever today to make it possible and simpler for you, right? Now, all that said and done, we also want to make sure that you can support it well. So the remote support is also another area that we are building into the solution for you so that you have a safe, secure, auditable, all right, and no additional cost, right? That said, some of you have seen this already, the hot patching. We covered this last month, and we actually covered it in a couple other sessions that we've been doing, because customers have been asking, how does Microsoft do this in Azure? So this is it, the hot patching, ensuring that the virtual machines as patched do not need to be rebooted, all right? And if there is a need for a reboot, it's only done, all right, every few months, for example, not every other month or every month, okay? So that's the important thing to note. But you do and need to work with what I call Windows Server Azure Edition, right? The special edition that's come out about a year ago. Now, that's it. We wanted to give you a flavor of what is all the different solutions available from our different brands or partners. So I want to invite Amar, who is joining us for the first time, to share a little bit on that note for us. Amar, you there?
Yes, I am. Noel.
Thank you.
I'll be sharing my screen. Give a second. Yeah. Okay. So to simplify it, right, obviously we are talking from last 30-40 minutes, different technology or value-added technology, which is for our existing infrastructure. To make it simplified, Microsoft made it very clear for every customer to have an access. Basically, the website is called as a HCI catalog, okay, where you can able to find different parts of a solution, how we can able to evaluate. And when I just walk you through this website, right, you can figure out what all the solutions are available, and few more interesting things are basically with the Azure hybrid partners, you can integrate multiple tools as well. That is part of this website, okay? And you can able to see some case studies so that you can refer when you are trying to use it for your infrastructure or for your customers, okay? To start with, as we are discussing more about how many options we have end customer provisioning for Azure packages. So as I said earlier, Microsoft has made it very simple for every customer to choose and create what exactly they are looking at, okay? And they divided this HCI concept into two methods. One is an integrated and one is a validated node. So what is the difference? Integrated node is basically with a pre-installed operating system with the Azure Stack HCI OS, which gives a lot of flexibility like an OpEx model. And the validated node is basically the hardware configuration selected. And this website, when we browse, it's basically like a catalog, right? That's where it is called as a catalog, okay? In a simple manner, for example, if I want to know an integrated system for the solutions builder, so basically here solution builders are like OEMs, Dell, HP, and Lenovo. You see, these are all certified integrated configurations from each brand, okay? Now, what all the more options this sites provide us, right? For example, as a customer, when we are seeing some demonstrations from right, those are all very much emphasize that it can be done everything even with a single node example, right? So for example, if a customer wants to try just from 1 to 4 single nodes, there is certain options. Okay, so to make it clear, what I'll just do is let me just scroll down and showcase more options. Okay, there are multiple brands available. Okay, so when I click Dell, HP, Lenovo, all the three, I have a multiple options. Okay, when I click for 1 to 4 nodes, there are certain brands and configurations. Okay, and secondly, we have certain options purchasing as a service like HP, GreenLake, and other stuff. And as we are seeing multiple demos, right, majorly this is curated for certain best use case practices. That's where the branch office, Edge, or VDI, SQL, all these kind of scenarios are something which are all integrated with Azure Stack HCI for the seamless experience and for a longer term usage on the investment. That's the biggest thing. And one of the important thing to know is the availability in your region. Because yes, we are doing from a YouTube live, majority of people are joining from live. So we want to just give you an example. For example, when I choose Asia, you can see all the options what are all available here, right? That simple it is what Microsoft has made it. And one more thing, just wanted to give it back before I hand it over to Noel. If someone wants to verify and validate themselves within a different branch when they are choosing for a different options, it's very simple. Just click on a compare selection and choose whatever the brands or you are looking at. Okay, so just and do compare now. That's it. So it gives all the detailed information side by side, and accordingly you can able to easily evaluate what is the best for your requirement. Accordingly, you can reach out to the OEM where you want to get support. So for example, once you go through this example of any site, okay, when you click on this links, which is a builder site, it will directly take you to the OEM's page. From there, you can able to get more support and guidance from there. Okay, so that is something which Microsoft had made very easy for every customer to browse through. So this is called as a HCI catalog, and which is open in the public. I'll be sharing this link as well on the chat, on the live chat, so that you can refer on. That's
Awesome.
it. Thank you from my side.
Thank you, Amar. Thank you. And Amar's coming in live from Bangalore, right? I know with his excitement in his voice, I know he's got so much to share, but obviously time is a premium in this Tech Talk session. So we're trying to keep it as brief as possible. Thank you, Amar. Thank you for that. Now, what we wanted to do also in future sessions, we wanted to take you through even the sizer, okay? And the size is an important part. But that said, from a sizing perspective, many customers are concerned about cost, right? Obviously, doing more with less means we want to bring the cost down as much as possible. So how do we do that from a cost perspective? So Microsoft has prepared this thing called the Hybrid Cloud Deal Sizer, right? I know the word deal doesn't sound kind of right? But it's think of it as a Hybrid Cloud Solution Sizer. Okay, and there are two components to that. One is Azure Arc plus HCI, and the other one is Azure Arc and other infrastructure, right? Because Microsoft is fully aware that there are other infrastructure that can leverage or benefit from Arc. But for our intent and purpose, we're just going to stick with Azure HCI with Arc. Under this category, we have three options. We can look at just service, or we can look at service together with AKS on HCI. So in this case, what I want to do is, first and foremost, I want to pin down, if you want, Azure HCI. When I click on Azure HCI here, you notice under the estimate, an option pick appears. So under here, you notice I can get to pick what region. So our region obviously is, right up the top here. I keep forgetting. It should be Southeast Asia. And then of course, I get to key in the number of physical cores. Let's say I'm going to go in a very humble 16 cores. All right, in that single node scenario. Obviously, at 16 cores, it's going to cost me 160 US per month. Okay, not too bad, but I want to really save because I've been investing in Microsoft for the longest time. So I'm going to select this option that says Windows Server Software Assurance, and suddenly it's become zeroed. All right, my heart almost stopped. So this is going to be the free option that Microsoft talked about. Truly, it is. So how about AKS? Right, so AKS on Azure HCI, click on that and I get another option, and sure enough, even under here, because I had that do you have Windows Server Software Assurance enabled? You notice the AKS part also has the same option. And once I check that, regardless of the number of CPUs or virtual CPUs, it remains to be free. That's the exciting thing about this solution for you. It's all free, okay? Because the customer has Windows Server Data Center with Software Assurance. So that was just a quick demo to give you an understanding on the cost part of it. And if you were doing this on Azure, the same thing will happen, right? So the important thing to all of this is AKS running on Azure ACI is truly real. And you can do that today. And you can save a whole lot of money because you've already been investing with Microsoft and we want to return value to you. So whether it's for applications or it could be Linux virtual machines, Windows Server virtual machines, or Azure services, all of these are something that we wanted to punctuate in. But since we are running short of time, Cole, I think we'll skip the demo for this time. We'll push it into the next session. I hope you don't mind.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. So just to summarize, all right, we've shown very quickly how we can do more with less, right? We also talked about end of support, how we can protect you by continually giving you patches, even when it's already end of support, like SQL Server 2012, for example, and Windows Server 2012 after that's coming. And we also saw the licensing bit, right, with the Windows Server Data Center with Software Assurance, and the Better Together story with a huge array of features and functionalities. And hopefully through that simple demos that we showed, we show you the affordability from the tools perspective to give you confidence and comfort that regardless of what you run, right, we believe that you are able to get all of those values that we talked about. In future sessions, we are going to go down and show you some of these services that are available, right? So that kind of takes us to the end of our tech talks, all right? And we wanted to make sure that you continue to be enriched. We want to see you next month. All right, this is the last Monday of every month that we do this. All right, and of course, in the next session, we're going to talk about virtual desktops in greater depth, which is an extension to what Cole has already shown you. So if there are Q&A, right, don't hesitate, drop it into the chat window for us. From myself, yours truly, Cole, Vic, Lorraine, and Amar, right, we thank you for having us, and we're signing off for now at the end of March. Thank you. We'll see you in April. Looking forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Stop sharing.